Hi guys, and welcome to lesson 3 in this 4th module. And in this lesson, we're going to be talking all about how you go about finding Facebook targeting options, cold audience targeting options like interest, demographics, behaviors that are likely to deliver fantastic results, how we build a list that we then go through and test. I'm going to walk you through the exact process that we're using. And this is not complex, by the way, guys. This is a fairly simple process, but it works. Like a lot of processes, often complexity just makes things less likely to succeed, introduces more potential points for failure. I always like to keep things simple and execute properly, and that's exactly what this process I'm about to show you is. So just because it's simple, don't think it doesn't work. This is exactly what we use. We're running this. We've used this for hundreds of client campaigns that we've got running right now, many of which are spending massive budgets, okay? So just wanted to say that up front. Now, we're not using the old method. The old method we used to use was a free tool called Facebook Audience Insights. Unfortunately, Facebook retired that tool, so we can't use Facebook Audience Insights anymore, and the tool they replaced it with is not fit for purpose. In fact, I'll quickly show you. So if you click on these 3 little lines over here, and you scroll down to Analyze and Report, there's still actually an Audience Insights option listed down here. But if you click on it, it doesn't take you through to the old Facebook Audience Insights tool. Instead, it takes you through to the audience section of the new Facebook Insights tool. And unfortunately, this new Facebook Insights tool is not fit for purpose. The sort of top pages section down here, which is what we used to use to generate, to find great cold audience targeting options, is just far too generic. So this is not something we can use. And I just wanted to quickly address that because if you're thinking, well, why aren't we using the new Insights tool? Why aren't we using that setup? It's because it's not fit for purpose. We can't use it very well to find great cold audience targeting options. What I'm about to show you is a much better way. So let's jump to the ad set level because that's where we, as we know, we set our targeting options. And then we're going to scroll down to this detailed targeting section here, okay? So I think the best way to do this is to go through and use an example. So let's say, for example, we were selling shoes. We're an e-commerce business, we're selling shoes. What I would want to do is pop shoes in there. And by the way, I'd recommend you have something you can make a list on, whether that's your phone or pen and paper, whatever, right? Make a list of, and enter in a really broad generic search term, a term that's to do with what it is that you sell. And then you want to go through and you want to make a list of all the options that appear beneath it that are relevant to what it is that you sell. Now, some will be and some won't be, and you could just sort of do this intuitively. You've got a pretty good idea. I'd be fairly generous, fairly broad at this stage. We can narrow this down. And what we're looking to do is get, I'd say 15 to 20 options initially, something along those lines, okay? Different interest, demographic, behavioral targeting options that we think we'd like to test. So obviously we can add in shoes, then there's gonna be a whole load of brands. Some of these may be appropriate, some of these may be not. You've got things like trendy shoes, women's shoes, bespoke shoes, and you have to make a judgment call. Okay, do we offer bespoke shoes? Yes or no? And look to add that in. So go down the list and, brands like Clark shoes and all sorts, right? Go down the list, make a note of the ones that you think are relevant. That the first time round, you might get 3 or 4, you might get 10. Either way is absolutely fine. The next stage is go ahead and select one. So now we've gone ahead and selected bespoke shoes. Let's say that's one of the things that we offer. Then you want to go ahead and click on suggestions, okay? And this is going to produce a suggestion based on bespoke shoes. So we might have things like Oxford shoe, dress shoe. See, these are things that didn't come up when we just searched for shoes, but we're digging a level deeper now. And obviously, if you're going to get a bespoke shoe made, it's often going to be a dress shoe, something like an Oxford shoe. Maybe you would want to, if you offer bespoke shoes, maybe you just want to advertise to people that are interested in bespoke things, like made-to-measure things. These might be great options. Slip-on shoes might not be so good. Sneakers, probably not. Maybe you want to advertise to people that are interested in luxury goods, if you offer bespoke shoes. Interested in footwear. Again, there's a whole load of things that don't apply, like window shutter, window blind, don't apply at all, but that's absolutely fine. But let's say, for example, we get a list of those. You can then, from the original list, go back and put in some other ones and see what you might find. We could now add in dress shoe, and we could click on suggestions again. Actually, what I'd normally do is get rid of the original one, add in the suggestions, and you might find some other options now that come up. Heel shoes. So if you're selling, obviously, heeled shoes, that might be platform shoe, high-heeled footwear. This will absolutely depend on, in this case, what it is that you're selling. A whole load cowboy boots, Chelsea boots, just completely depends on what it is that you're selling. Stiletto heels. So that's the exact process. You put in really broad term, you make a list of all the ones that are relevant. That might be 4 or 5. You then take each one of those 4 or 5, you pop them in here and you click on suggestions, and then how many can you find that are relevant there? And you can keep going down the list, right? You can keep going down the list to see what you can find. And you should have 15, 20, you might get 30 odd, absolutely fantastic. And that's the process that we're initially going through to find our cold audience targeting options. Now, we're going to explain much more about this later on in terms of the campaign structure. But what we would usually use, just to quickly explain a little bit in advance, is we'd have one cold audience targeting option, so the interested behavior demographic per ad set, and we're going to test these. I'm going to show you which ones you select to test initially in the next video, but we're going to test these and we're going to see how they perform. It's very easy to assume certain things like, oh, that one's going to perform best, that one's not. It's so hard to predict in advance, so I'm always a big fan of we make this big list and we're going to work our way through and test them. Because you might find that out of your list of 20, 3 deliver fantastic results, the other 17 are rubbish. That happens all the time. And that's why we want a nice big list. We're going to keep it simple to start with, and that's how you find your first cold audience targeting options. Then what we're going to do in the next lesson, I'm going to talk about ideal audience size and how that ties in to choosing the best possible options to get started with for that sort of first layer of testing. But as I said, super simple, guys, and that's supposed to go through. If you really want to, you can also browse. I should quickly mention this is not something we typically do because it takes so long. Another thing I should quickly mention is you can also browse, right? So you can, instead of going through the suggestions, you can look through the demographic options and the interest options. It's not something we typically do because we want to jump sort of straight to the end point, and this is quite time consuming, and also not all the options are going to be available here that you will find through doing exactly what I just showed you through the suggestions. But if you wanted to browse through the various options, you can absolutely do that. That is not a problem. But yeah, so next stage, go through that process. Might take you, half an hour, might take you an hour. Not a problem, absolutely worth doing. Don't overthink it. Nice broad list to start with, and we'll narrow it down in the next video. I'll see you there.